professor of political science in Cleveland, Ohio. He's talked to us before. He joins us again. Thank you so much for joining us, Shawn. I'm right, aren't I? I'm waiting for the disaster. Am I wrong?
Hi, Michael. No, I think you're spot on. People have compared it to, car wreck, and having a rubber neck. And in fact, the analogy of specifically a show about, terrible couples put together is particularly apt with, of course, former President Trump being the host of the show Apprentice. There's an incredible symmetry there. So, no, that sounds great.
Yeah, no, it's listen, I know everybody I've talked to, but then I guess everybody I talk to comes from a political bent, but everybody I've talked to is going to be watching 1 o'clock our time, Shawn. What time is it due American time?
So it'll be on here at Eastern Daylight Time at 9 p.m. tomorrow evening.
Right, and so Eastern Daylight Time, that's Boston and Massachusetts and Philadelphia and all that sort of stuff. For you in Cleveland, right, Ohio, you're an hour behind, or you're doing the same time?
No, we're in Eastern Time. The border goes to about the middle of Illinois, which is the western state west of us. I believe Detroit is in the next time. I could be mistaken. Maybe Detroit is also in our time. But by the time you get to Chicago, it's certainly Central Time.
And then there's Western Time as well, or Pacific Time, I think they call it. Is that 2-3 hours behind?
3 hours. So the L.A. market and the San Francisco market will be hearing it at 6 p.m. tomorrow, right at the end of the workday.
Right. Okay. All right. So in this particular case, the expectations of a train wreck, as you've just said, Shawn, seem very high. For us here, we just think that's entertainment. I'm curious, and perhaps you can tell our listeners, please, why is Joe Biden doing this debate at all, given that the election is still 4 months away? 5 months away.
Sure. Yeah, conventional wisdom is people that agree to debates are typically behind, and they're often the ones that have the most to lose if they fail it. The other conventional wisdom is that incumbent presidents always do poorly on the first debate, and the general understanding is because they're busy doing the most important job of the world. And so what happens is they get their clock cleaned on the first time around. Certainly happened with Barack Obama against Mitt Romney in 2012, and then his team huddles and says, if that happens again, we're done. And so they tune him up and get back for debate number 2. I think in this case, it's fair to say that if that happens, Joe Biden may be all but done, literally. And in fact, as we talked about last time, I wouldn't rule out the Democratic Party coalescing around the idea of trying to put forward another candidate in time for the convention in August, where the nominees are actually named. Right now they're referred to as the respected nominees of their parties, but they're not the actual nominees yet.
In New Zealand, we get a fair bit of what you describe as Democrat-aligned news in our mainstream media. So most of our media are talking the Democrat viewpoint here. And their argument is that the Democrats are very confident that Joe Biden will put to rest tomorrow in the debate the suggestion of any lack of mental acuity. Are you as confident of that, Shawn?
Well, I think, I don't know if you know who Ben Jones is, but he's a former CNN commentator, and he's kind of certainly out of the closet liberal. And his great quote from the other day was, if Biden blows it, it's game over. So there's an enormous amount of expectation and anxiety, certainly, about his performance tomorrow. Do I think it's a slam dunk and he'll put the thing away? Absolutely not. I think if you would get many people to confess their true feelings about it, they're quite concerned and even bordering on terrified as to the potential of it. And the reason is, the stakes couldn't be higher. And again, I said just a second ago that for Biden, it's so much greater than this. If Trump gets up and acts in his usual fashion and a lot of bombast and carrying on and so on and so forth, he won't lose a single vote from the people that are currently committed to vote for him. If Biden gets up and blows it, with a senior moment of type of thing, then he could potentially lose huge numbers of supporters and ultimately, no question, the election as a result of it. So the stakes are extremely high, and I think any Democrat that says that they're not worried or that they think he's going to do a really good job is really not being honest.
So your view is that Biden's got everything to lose and Trump's on a bit of a free hit tomorrow?
Pretty much. I know it'll sound silly, but I kind of have this solve for X for equation. In my opinion, if Biden loses, it'll be because of low turnout and low enthusiasm for the Democrats.
Yeah.
If Biden wins, it will be because of Trump. If Trump wins, it will be because of Trump. And if Trump loses, it will be because of Trump. And so of the solve for X4, 3 of the answers are Trump, which puts an incredible amount of importance on Biden's performance for tomorrow relative to what Trump is doing. Because his base is solid, as he's said so many times. He could do virtually anything and they'd still be with him. What I fail to understand that Trump people don't seem to be fully grasping is the potential damage he could do to the independents, which, as we discussed last time, is where the entire race is going to be fought. Right now, most polls are suggesting that the independents are defecting somewhat as a result of the criminal convictions in New York a few weeks ago. The numbers range greatly. They're kind of the easy under is is somewhere between 2 and 9% of that 40% of the electorate that registers as independent. One good commentator said that there's approximately really about 10% of people that are truly gettable. So if, in fact, those numbers hold true, that would mean that 2% of them potentially could flip. And as we know, 2% could actually be decisive. And, in fact, Mr. Biden's numbers have gone up about 2% in the last couple of polls, although they have not increased in the polls that are most important, which are in the battleground states. Yeah,
and that's the issue, isn't it? It's the 6 or 7 states that, as we know, we've talked about it before. I'm doing the morning show, as you know, for standing in for my the host and founder of platform, Shawn Plunket. Just to explain for those of you who hadn't heard Dr. Shawn Easley or Professor Shawn Easley before, you've pointed out that the election is going to be fought in 6 or 7 states because of the peculiarities of the electoral college that the Americans have. In those states, has there been any change in the polling since you and I last talked?
Not really. Mr. Biden is doing, even or holding his own in Wisconsin. He's down a few in Pennsylvania, which to me will be the deciding state with its 20 electoral votes. And all the rest of them stay pretty much the same, plus or minus 1%. So no, there hasn't been any appreciable change in them.
Given the very strong, though, it's remarkable when you look at the polls. There's a website I just keep on refreshing, and it's the aggregation of the presidential political polls of Biden and Trump. Nobody ever seems more than 1 or 2 points ahead, and that fluctuates, within those margins, or has done for the last, 6 or 9 months. I'm interested in the role of Robert F. Kennedy here, because he was being suggested as the spoiler. Nobody was quite sure who he spoiled more, Trump or Biden. Is he still a factor as we head towards November?
Well, it's such a good question, Michael, because so many of the polls qualify.